Now, let's go back to this will of this curious man, Obadiah Dumas.
Yeah.
Now, it contains another remarkable section.
At the death of my said wife, Mary Dumas, or marriage, I will that the above named Negroes, Tony and Clara, and their children, be emancipated. Oh, he was all right.
He wanted to make sure his wife was taken care of, right? But when she died, he willed that your great-great-great-grandparents would be set free.
In a lot of wills that I've examined, some of the slave owners have requested this to happen. Now, whether it happens or not is something that we have to follow through with. So next thing I'll do is to find Mary Dumas's will. Okay, I'm looking in the index, and we see Mary A. Dumas. It tells us page 248. All right, 247, 248. Mary Dumas. And I want to find out what happened to the slaves that she was willed upon her husband's death.
And lastly, I give unto my niece, Mary Dumas,
Named after her.
a Negro man by the name of Tony and a woman by the name of Claire.
Here, in direct contradiction of her husband's wishes, Mary deeds Tony and Clara, Ralph, and their other children to her niece. Now, how could she do that? Court papers filed by Obadiah Dumas's executors claim that Mary didn't have the right to override Obadiah's will. Because Obadiah's will had legal precedence, we expected the court to emancipate the slaves. But we found evidence of a protracted court battle over Tony and Clara's fate. I visited the legal historian Paul Finkelman to learn why Tony and Clara had not been freed immediately.
The problem is that in 1832, Alabama adopted a new constitution. The Constitution says the General Assembly shall have no power to pass laws to emancipate slaves without the consent of the owners, and that the General Assembly must pass laws setting out how owners could emancipate their slaves on their own. In 1834, the same year Obadiah dies, the legislature passes such a law. And the law says executors can't free slaves, only the owner can free the slave. However, the will was written before the legislature acted.
Over the next 4 months, the executors made their case in the Wilcox County Court. The judge had to decide whether or not to honor Obadiah's will, which was signed prior to the 1834 law, and therefore free Clara and Tony. On January 4th, 1848, a judge named J.W. Bennett issued his decision, and this is what he decided. Judge J.W. Bennett decided against Obadiah's executors.
Oh, man.
And he declared that Tony and Clara's manumission was null and void, and as the property of Mary Dumas, could be lawfully given away any way that she had decreed in her will. Your great-great-great-grandparents spent the remainder of their lives enslaved, and they died before the Civil War as slaves.
They had it.
They had it. They had it by law. They had...
And then they changed the law.
We went to his death in good faith, thinking that he had done a good thing.
It's heartbreaking. Makes me wonder what would have become of them had they been freed.
Like they should have been.
And I get calls and emails all the time from white listeners who say, why can't you and black people just
Get over it.
Get over that. These were my people. They were slaves, and they were gonna make it out. They had it by being faithful to a slave owner, and he had enough heart to recognize them as human beings, recognize their marriage vows, which he didn't have to do. And then at his death, he's gonna do the right thing.
Yeah, he did the right thing. His buddy tried to do the right thing.
How am I supposed to get over that?
Slavery forces us to confront some of the worst nightmares in American history. But doing so is a necessary part of understanding who we are as a people and who we are as a nation. Jane Ailes told me that there was one more stop I had to make to fully understand my fourth grade grandparents, Joe and Sarah Bruce.
Hey.
What a beautiful day.
It's lovely.
So nice to see you.
It's good to see you.
Now, why have you dragged me here?
We're here because this land was once owned by Abraham Van Meter, the man who freed your Bruce family.
So this was his property?
This was his land.
So you mean the Bruces lived here?
Yes. Abraham inherited it from his father in 1788. His father had two different parcels here that were adjoining. One was about 400 acres and the other was close to 200 acres.
It's 1,000 acres that we can see. This is incredible. You know what's the irony to me is that it's so close to where I grew up and I didn't even know it was here. So do we know where the Bruces, their slaves, might have lived?
Well, probably somewhere here near the house.
In so many ways, Joe and Sarah's story was quite exceptional. A free Negro couple who owned a large farm in the hills of Western Virginia. But they began their lives as slaves, slaves who had the strength to survive. As free people, they had the courage to fight for their family and their land. They were African Americans who helped to lay the foundation for all that our people have become today. I can't tell you what a great gift you've given to me. I've always wanted to be able to walk the land that my slave ancestors walked and worked, and I've been able to walk the land that my ex-slave ancestors actually owned.
I never knew the specific states where they lived. And all these names, it's my family that we're talking about. It's not some story in a book. I think it's important that we have an opportunity to, purge that and kind of have that experience.
That's part of who I am. That is absolutely an essential part of who I am and who we are as African American people.
The perpetrators won't live it down, nor will the victims. But my wish is that generationally, you won't call it closure. You'll just realize that ultimately we all went through it, and we all had to survive it.
To watch clips from African American Lives 2, learn about DNA analysis, or share your own family histories, visit pbs.org. African American Lives 2 is available on DVD for $24.99 plus shipping. To order, call 1-800-336-1917 or write to the address on your screen.